On this episode of the Press Rewind Sheena Easton Lyrics podcast, I'm joined again by Jerry Bonner to chat about The Arms of Orion from the Batman soundtrack. Welcome back to the show, Jerry.
Thanks for having me once again, Jason. It seems to be I'm the de facto Sheena Easton expert as well. So didn't really plan it that way, but that's the way it's kind of turned out. So here we are.
Yes, here we are. Yes, we did. You got the look. I mean, we've done other episodes since then, but the last Prince and Sheena collaboration that you and I covered was, of course, You Got the Look from Sign of the Times. And on that song, Sheena isn't given credit in terms of like on the liner notes or on the album. I mean, everybody knows Sheena's in the song. She's in the video, yada yada. It's not a question about whose voice that is, but she doesn't. It's not like Prince and Sheena Easton performing You Got the Look. It's a Prince song. Oh, and by the way, Sheena Easton's in it. This song that we're doing today, The Arms of Orion from Batman, is a Prince and Sheena Easton song. That's how it's listed on the credits for the album, and it's one of the very few songs where Prince does give like a co-credit on the song itself. I mean, I'm not counting In the Revolution and New Power Generation. I'm talking like one other person, like a co-singer, co-artist, where he does that. So, Sheena's one of the few to get that credit.
Yeah, I mean, looking up and doing some research. I mean, obviously, and I didn't realize this, and I guess until recently, that it seems at least that's what Sheena says is she wrote the lyrics. I mean, she wrote the lyrics and sent them to Prince, and he liked it and kind of ran with it, and then suddenly it turns up on this this Batman soundtrack that it wasn't intended for. It seems it was just something she wrote because she liked the stars. She had a house where she could look out the balcony and look out at the stars, and kind of thought it was a nice idea to maybe write a love song that looked at two different kind of star-crossed lovers in a sense, looking at up at the sky at various points, or at different points, shall we say, and kind of thinking about each other. So. Yeah, it's kind of a nice idea and a nice little song, in my opinion. But I guess we're gonna dive into that. So.
Yeah, right, and that's why I kind of opened up the episode by calling it the Sheena Easton Lyrics podcast, because it's very rare. It's very rare that I'm doing an episode. Well, I think this might be the first time that I've done an episode out of 120 some episodes of the show where we're talking about a song that, at least according to the stories, where the lyrics were written by somebody that wasn't Prince. Now, I mean, the song "Slow Love" from Sign of the Times, there's some I don't know, debate is the right word, but there's just some conflicting statements out there about who wrote that song. Was it written by Carol Davis or was it written by Prince? And was it a combination? So anyway, but that one isn't officially like written.
Well, that's the thing
by
too,
her.
and that's why I kind of, because there have been a couple other people who have popped up and said that they contributed great parts, like Apollonia's come up and said, "Oh, Manic Monday, I pretty much wrote that," and what Susanna's kind of said that she pretty much wrote Starfish and Coffee as well, or at least contributed a good amount to that. And those things are being said after Prince passed on, and I find I kind of go, all right, maybe. I mean, I wasn't there, but but this one seems, she seems fairly straightforward that, hey, I sent it to him and there we go. So that's what I'm going to go with, I suppose.
Yeah, right. So who knows if they had, like, if the lyrics that she wrote were tweaked at all when it came time to actually record the song, or if they're performed in the exact same manner that she delivered them to Prince. I don't know. We won't know for sure unless some sort of evidence comes out or is uncovered. But so we're just gonna roll with it. This is a Prince Lyrics podcast. It's a Prince album, Batman, co-authored, we'll say, by Sheena Easton, and leave it at that.
Yep.
Okay, so Arms of Orion, third track on the album. It was also released as the third single. Actually, not just in the U.S., across the entire globe. This was the third single, and it was released in October of '89. It did go to number 36 on the Billboard Hot 100, aka the pop charts, and number 21 on the adult contemporary charts, which I guess kind of tells you everything you need to know about what this song is, like, what style of song this is. If it charted on the adult contemporary charts, it's a very adult contemporary ballad. It
Yeah.
doesn't, fit in with really the R&B genre. Obviously a pop song as well. It's not a dance song. So yeah, adult contemporary is exactly the niche chart that it belongs to, if it's going to belong to any. And it was, moderately successful. 21's not bad, nothing to sneeze at. So, a decent hit. Not bat dance level, but still decent.
Sure. No, and I love that term adult contemporary because it always, makes me think of something dirty or some kind of porn kind of thing connotation with it. I don't know. Obviously, it's not that, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even think that term is used anymore. I haven't heard that in a very long time, adult contemporary. But that's kind of kind of amusing to think that. But yeah, it was. I mean, I think, I said I enjoyed the song. I mean, I enjoyed the Batman soundtrack as a whole, but it's very nostalgic, and it was. I think the popularity of it was probably buoyed by the popularity of the Batman film, which was massive at the time. I mean, people who lived in that era, kind of like, if you didn't live in that area, you don't understand. Just that summer, Batman was everywhere. I mean, it really was, and the soundtrack was a big part of that. So, yeah.
Right. So good segue into maybe if you want to offer like your memories of the Batman soundtrack, or what did you think of the album when it came out, or at least when you heard that Prince was going to be recording and releasing an album based off of the movie.
Sure. That was one of the first movies. I mean, I recall like massive pre-hype for. I mean, it was, and even, Prince being announced that he was going to do the soundtrack. I think it was at some point in 1988. I think that they announced that was happening, and as they were filming it, and yeah, I mean, I was excited, obviously, and then it came, Bat Dance was released, before the before the movie, and that got it, and it had clips from the movie in it, which really, was like you hear these kind of, these quips from the movie, and that kind of got people excited too, and it just really was kind of I think, if I don't know if they do or don't, I mean, but they I've taken PR classes in the past and things like that, but I wonder if some point, there would be a master class and kind of PR work, or because the whole how the Prince or the Batman campaign was handled, it was a masterclass in public relations and marketing, because they just really hyped up the frenzy for it, and when the movie hit, it was just massive. I mean, it really was, and luckily it was a good movie, and luckily the soundtrack was good as well. Everything with it kind of clicked. It really did. You had some, very hot stars too, and it just everything really kind of was a confluence of things, and it really did. And then there was merchandise too, everything under the sun, from toys to cereal to, T-shirts were everywhere, and every other kind of merchandise you can think of under the sun. And the album obviously was a big part of that. I mean, I remember distinctly, buying the cassette, which I have right here in front of me. I wanted to look at the liner notes before coming on and talking, just to see if there was anything that I had forgotten or maybe missed in that. And, having that since, literally, 1989 is, something to be said for that, I think. And just, I think the Batman soundtrack, in popular culture well, not so much as late. I think it really started with, unfortunately, Shaun of the Dead, where they kind of diss it a little bit. And, it's like, where he says, throw the Batman soundtrack album at the zombies. That's where it kind of started, where people were like, yeah, maybe it's not that great, but I don't particularly think so. And I think it definitely holds up, and it's yeah, you can say it's a product of its time, but that time was pretty goddamn great. So, as far as I'm concerned. So there you go. That's my memories of the whole Batman experience of that summer.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do, well, I mean, yes, they did a wonderful job. Warner Brothers Studios did a wonderful job of, the synergistic aspects of marketing, including pop star, including, big name actors, a director who just came off of a big hit, Beetlejuice, um, and revising basically the Batman IP. So we don't. It's in 2022. It's for those who weren't alive in the 80s. Superhero movies were fewer and far further between, right? So
Sure.
like the whole Superman phenomenon was in the late 70s, and then the Superman movies that came out in the 80s were, less and less popular, more cheesy, worse critical reception, and then eventually,
Yeah, by the mid
that
'80s,
series
the
died.
Superman franchise had kind of died,
Exactly.
and then but there was a resurgence in the comics, especially Batman with Dark Knight Returns, and then that's what kind of kicked it into gear for a bit for a movie, and there was talk of it for a bit, and then finally, yeah, at the tail end of the '80s, it did happen, and that's what we got, and luckily it was very good, and so yeah.
Yeah, it was an organic build up to this film. We weren't rebooting things every 3 to 4 years like we do now, so it was. It's a big deal.
Are you saying it's a problem, Jason? I don't know.
I'm a curmudgeon when it comes to.
No, I feel it, man.
The fatigue is
We
real.
get one more reboot of something or other, I think my head is going to explode. But
yeah, the Spider-Man movie, which I saw. I had kids. My kids wanted to see it, so I went with them. My youngest daughter. It was fine, but the fact that there's 3 Spider-Mans in the movie that are all like in the past 20 years,
yeah,
it's a lot about that phenomenon.
Sure, it definitely does. Yeah, I mean, it's I enjoyed it as well, but yeah, it's like you kind of when they all are standing there together, it's almost when I ask the question, oh yeah, you go, okay, that's cool, but on the other hand, it's why are we?
Why do we have 3 Spider-Man?
Yeah, why are we here?
Exactly.
But here we are, I guess. So we'll just take it at face value and kind of try to laugh and have a good time. But yeah I feel you.
The other thing that before we get started on the lyrics that I just want to bring up because I brought it up on the other episodes thus far is the fact that every song on Batman does have a point of view as far as who the perspective of the artist or singer is. So the Future, sung by Batman, Electric Chair, sung by the Joker, and for Arms of Orion we have Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale. So that's who we're supposed to be envisioning is performing this song, or at least coming from their perspectives. And as watchers, viewers of the '89 Batman know, that's the love story in the movie is the Bruce Wayne Vicky Vale side plot. Again, as far as like the love story, how they meet, and she's not real sure about him at first, and he's got this big secret, obviously. And that is essentially what we're supposed to envision here. But, it works, but it doesn't work at the same time because it's not like in the movie the two of them were separated by some great distance and had this this great lost love that they were lamenting losing. So I don't know. I mean, again, you just have to kind of set it aside and just like, okay, yeah, they're the 2 people in the movie that you're supposed to be rooting for to get together. So by default, a ballad is going to be from their perspective. A ballad with a man and woman singing together.
Right, and that was kind of the thing I said. Again, looking things up and doing research, it was like I guess I had kind of forgotten that, and that was the main reason why I wanted to pull out the cassette and the liner notes itself, because it does have right in the liner notes like Bruce and Vicky, on the different verses and things like that. Their names are right on the side of it. So, that is, an interesting, kind of perspective, obviously, that every, I thought that was obviously a genius at the time, that, each song is sung by, somebody else. And Prince kind of delved into that a bit in the videos, especially the Party Man video and the whole concept of the, the Gemini thing that he threw out there. And, which was cool as well. So, yeah, for sure. It's like you said. I think maybe the well, we'll get into that when we talk about the lyrics. But the fuller context of the song really doesn't seem to jive in the movie. But in terms of there's really no great divide between them per se. maybe emotionally if we want to go there. But
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, sure, that
yeah,
works too. Like if you think of it as a metaphor for an emotional divide or emotional distance, because
yeah,
they don't, they have a difficulty really connecting because of the big secret that Bruce has, and just the fact that he comes off as like an arrogant playboy, and Vicky's like, yeah, I don't know if I like this guy that much. He's kind of charming, but I don't really trust him. So that whole side plot, it takes a while to get going before they even finally like kiss or have a moment where you think that they're connecting on an emotional level. So again, it's just a song from a soundtrack, so we won't we won't count that against it too harshly.
yeah.
Okay, so then moving on to the lyrics, and the first verse of the song is like a true duet where the singer, well, I don't know what's considered a true duet, but in this duet, the Prince and Sheena Easton, they share the first verse. So like Prince sings the first 4 lines of the verse, and then Sheena sings the second 4 lines of the verse. And that first verse goes, Orion's arms are wide enough to hold us both together. Although we're worlds apart, I'd cross the stars for you. And then Sheena sings, in the heart of a sleepless moon, I'll be with you forever. This is my destiny, till my life is through. All right, so right off the bat, you get the sense that astrology is going to play a significant role in the lyrics to this song. I mean, the title alone, The Arms of Orion, is a reference, of course, to the constellation of stars called Orion the Hunter. So, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that stars, constellations, astrology is going to play a part in the story of this song and the lyrics. And right there, in the first line, Prince sings, Orion's arms are wide enough. And, I was really big into astrology when I was a kid. Like I had one of those machines that could create the night sky in your bedroom. You turn off all the lights, you turn on this machine, and it like the whole ceiling of your bedroom or whatever room you're in lit up, and you could identify the different constellations. And I was really fascinated by that. But as I got older, and the less I started paying attention to the stars and constellations, and so I had to remind myself what Orion the Hunter looked like. When you when you play connect the dots with the stars, because that's what you have to do. You have to really use your imagination, obviously. And so Orion the Hunter is holding his arms out, arms stretched, and so that's of course the reference to Orion's arms are wide enough as a reference to the arms being stretched wide in the night sky. So anyway, what else do you like about this verse, Jerry, or want to point out in terms of like its storytelling or its references to astrology?
Yeah, I mean, it just starts off, I think, strongly. I mean, like you said, with the reference to the constellation, and I personally myself, I enjoy more the mythology, I would say, behind the constellations rather than the actual. I was never huge on like going and finding the what they are or what they aren't, or that kind of thing. I mean, I remember studying them in school and that kind of stuff briefly here and there, but more the mythological type stuff always kind of brought me to the story, or brought me to the greater picture, of Orion the Hunter and that kind of stuff. And a lot of them are based on Greek myths and things of that nature, the names for them. So that was kind of the end of it that always fascinated me, more so than the actual stars themselves, or what planets or what stars made up those constellations. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
is always kind of fascinating as well. But in terms of the song, I mean, it's like you said, it's basically a standard duet, whatever you want to and standard in most realms would be one person singing to the other kind of an interplay between the two parties. Typically a love song, male and female, kind of going back and forth. Between their feelings for each other, and whatever they may be. Maybe they start off contestuous, and then by the end of the song they're fully in love, or or they start off in love and they're kind of professing their love, which seems to be where this is at. And then the first verse really kind of kicks that into high gear. I'm here for you. Here, my arms are wide open. And yeah, I'm going to be here. And then she's saying, my life here, is going to be with you the rest of my life. So, pretty standard stuff as love ballads go, but nicely put. Sheena did a good job here, and started it off well and sung well. It's just it's a nice little ballad, and it starts well, and the lyrics kind of I think give that validation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the key takeaways from this first verse are the fact that they're separated. So, like, you're supposed to get from that they're not together. They're separated by distance. When Prince says, although we're worlds apart, that clearly states that they're not together physically in the same space. We're adding we're actually near each other. Although worlds apart, again, could be a metaphor for an emotional distance or just anything that's blocking them from being together. Somebody could, be speaking in hyperbole and by saying we're worlds apart when really they're just down the street, but they might feel like they're worlds apart. But I get the sense that they're actually there's a physical distance between them. That's always how I interpreted the song, even though, of course, it could be interpreted other ways. Because he says, I'd cross the stars for you. And I guess, just again, that gives me the imagery that to cross the stars, you have to travel a great distance to do that. And Prince is saying, I'd cross the stars, meaning I'd travel a very long ways in order to see you, to be with you, or for you, whatever that means.
Sure, yeah, I mean, but as I said, I kind of take it more as an emotional thing, just in the context. I mean, I guess I'm a little more practical in that sense, where it's like knowing what the movie was, and it's like I said, it seems like it's more an emotional divide that they had, Bruce and Vicky, or because of the whole Batman thing. Obviously, it's she couldn't really know him per se. At least it seemed that way from her perspective. So to me, the divide is more emotional, but it does like from the lyrics itself, it definitely does seem like it's a physical kind of distance rather than emotional. So, but
it works though, because you've heard. I mean, we've all heard the phrase "from two different worlds."
Oh, sure.
And that doesn't obviously mean like literally I'm from planet Earth and you're from Mars. No, that means like they're just coming from different walks of life, different perspectives, different places in life, and worlds apart can be that from that meaning as well. And so it completely works, whether it refers to a physical distance, like I've always interpreted the song, or just some sort of either emotional distance or just, socioeconomic distance, or just running in two very different circles in life where that makes getting together much more difficult. So all of them can be applied here, and they all completely work, I think, in the context of the song.
Sure.
And so the other thing that I was going to just mention, that the key takeaway, besides the distance, however you want to take that, is also that they are kind of aligned in their feelings for each other. So it's not like unrequited love. It's not like some person pining for somebody else and the other person doesn't know they exist. This appears to be mutual in terms of their feelings for each other and their concerns or disappointment that the two of them can't connect or having difficulty connecting, because after Prince says those first four lines, her saying, in the heart of a sleepless moon, I'll be with you forever. That's my destiny till my life is through. So that, of course, tells me as the listener that she's very interested in being with him as well, and just is having a hard time getting there.
Yeah, no, they're very much on the same page from go here, it seems. And like I said, it's there are duets that kind of explore different emotions, and there's even changes throughout the song, and like something like Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. Obviously there's a great you can consider that a duet. I mean, it's a back and forth between a man and a woman, and there's obviously emotional changes throughout the course of that song. So this isn't one of those though where it says they're very much on the same page from go here, and that's fine. In the terms of the movie, I said there was a bit of hesitation, like if you remember the movie and Vicky's part, but she seemed to be all in pretty quickly. So yeah, that definitely works.
Yeah. And I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention is that from a cinematic perspective, Like if this song was in the film, what the imagery I would get, the cinematic imagery I would get is to see like a split screen of Vicky on one side of the screen and Bruce on the other side of the screen, and they're both looking up at the night sky, singing this song at the same time, not knowing, of course, that the other person was also looking up at the night sky, singing the song at the same time. And that's the like I said, the cinematic imagery I get when I hear this song, and what I envision is maybe the potential intent by the artists.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems that way. As we said in the beginning a little bit. I mean, that's even Sheena Easton kind of described that in a sense, is that she had like a house where she was out on a balcony, where she was living at the time, and that she would had a great view of the sky, and that's where she kind of got the idea for the song. So, yeah, having two kind of, like I said, star-crossed lovers in a sense, out on these balconies, kind of pining for each other across, the galaxy in a sense. So, although when you were talking about it now, I just got this vision in my head of Michael Keaton and Kim Basinger, like, lip syncing this, in like some cheesy 80s video kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah. We could all see it in our heads.
Yeah, and that, seeing that in the context of the Batman, milieu in a sense would be kind of funny in a sense. But yeah, for sure. It definitely paints that picture.
We've all seen it before. We just may not have seen it
in that context. Yeah,
exactly. Right. With Bruce and Vicky doing it, but we've seen it before in some other film or TV show or something. So, or even in music videos that have probably done this before.
No doubt.
So the chorus is sung by Prince and Sheena Easton together, and the chorus is, "The arms of Orion, that's where I want to be. Since you've been gone, I've been searching for a lover in the sea of tranquility. I'm drowning without you here, my dear." Okay, so one thing I wanted to bring up, so again, "The Arms of Orion," the title of the song, and bringing up Orion again, the first line of the chorus. I didn't think of this, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but I did find it on the internet, so my sleuthing abilities allowed me to discover this. This thought process where, of course, we all know Prince is a Gemini, or those of us into astrology, it's no secret he uses that dynamic in his work, especially at the Batman, when he would paint himself half Joker and half Batman. And Sheena Easton is Taurus. You're a Taurus. Okay, so what does that mean? Who cares? Well, I guess if you're looking up at the night sky.
No, don't ever say that, because there are people, man, who are way into that stuff.
No, I just mean, like, what's the point, Jason? Get to the point.
Yeah, yeah, man. You're going to have the astrology people coming for your head.
No, I'm not dismissing astrology. I'm just saying,
all right,
of me calling out Prince being a
Remember,
Gemini.
It's Jason Brenninger. He lives in Ohio. I'm Jerry Bonner. I live in New Jersey.
Yes.
We're two separate people. Don't come for me. I didn't say that.
Anyway, so the two of them, or the two constellations, Gemini and Taurus, I guess when you look at the night sky, they're on the Orion, the hunter, is in between the two of them. Okay, that's probably just an accident, probably just a coincidence. I mean, maybe Sheena was thinking, oh, this would be a great duet with Prince. I'll pick Orion because it's a constellation that falls between the two of our astrological signs. I don't know if that's true or not. I just know this is something that is a real thing. Orion the hunter is in between the two of them, and of course the concept of the song is, the arms of Orion, that's where they want to be, because then you think of the two of them coming from wherever they are, mental or physical distance, coming together at Orion in between, in the middle. So take that for what you want. I just thought I'd bring it up because I found it to be interesting, either like an interesting coincidence or a pretty clever, calculated choice.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, if Sheena was thinking all those lines, I mean, she didn't make that known. I mean, when people asked her about the song, that she was thinking in those terms, and it seems more unlikely in a sense, because I mean, she's always denied that they had a relationship. It was something that she desired. It seemed like they were just musical kind of friends, and they had a good relationship in that respect. And it didn't seem like she ever really had any romantic designs, at least in her mind. But it's an interesting thought, between that is kind of cool that, that to think of it in those terms. But I think maybe it might have been overthought a little bit here. And I think if I was that clever, I mean, in writing a song, I would have definitely said that.
Bragged about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I think she would have said that. She'd been like, yeah, it was my kind of clever little way of saying, hey, Prince, I think we should get together, and,
Yeah, even if it's just in the studio. We should get
right.
together.
That just seems like, but so I think it's just a coincidence. It's an interesting coincidence, but I think
for sure,
just a coincidence at that.
Yeah. I'm not going to claim it's not a coincidence or claim it is. I'm just putting it out there in the world for people to do what they want with it. All right, so the other thing that I found interesting that I also think is just a coincidence, because I just can't imagine that it isn't, is one of the stars in the constellation of Orion the Hunter is a star by the name of Betelgeuse.
Yeah, Betelgeuse. Well, Betelgeuse.
Yeah, Betelgeuse.
Yeah.
That's how it's pronounced as the star. But of course, those of us who have
knows
the movie,
right. Yes,
then we know that Betelgeuse is then that word is transported to, or transferred to Beetlejuice, either through a mispronunciation by one of the characters in the movie. I don't remember if that's how Betelgeuse turned into Beetlejuice. I don't know if it was Gina Davis's character or Alec Baldwin's character. But so of course Michael Keaton plays Batman / Bruce Wayne, and also played Beetlejuice. Both Tim Burton films, both big hits, back to back there in the late 80s. So another interesting coincidence.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Chorus. What else, Jerry, do you want to talk about here in the chorus?
I mean, I guess, we should, mention that, I hope, or I think maybe nowadays some people don't know what the Sea of Tranquility is. Maybe we should talk about, what the Sea of Tranquility is, just for, people who, it's obviously something that's, on the moon, our moon, the Earth's
not
moon.
Not an actual sea with
not an actual sea.
Water,
exactly.
hydrogen,
Right.
oxygen.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of those moon seas.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
it wasn't the Sea of Tranquility where the Apollo 11 moon landing was. Wasn't that the location?
Yes. Exactly. So it does have historical context in the 1969 moon landing. It's where they set down, and that's what they called it. And so just so people know, it's not a physical sea, but that it does still have that kind of heaven. When you deal with the stars in the heavens, you're dealing with still that kind of terminology, and that's something obviously that goes along with it, the Sea of Tranquility, rather than being a physical body of water. It is something that's still up in the stars and in the heavens, and it so it does fit with the theme of the song. But just so everybody's kind of clear on that, I don't know how much, again, stuff like that is taught nowadays in school, but just to be clear, so what it is and what it isn't. All right.
Yeah. No, thanks for calling that out. And the line is, "I've been searching for a lover in the Sea of Tranquility." So again, that just kind of reiterates the concept around the song of them being staring up at the sky and looking for love in the sky, in the heavens, as you mentioned, and looking for each other up there in the sky, either trying to find inspiration or try to find their way to him, and hoping that the gods intervene somehow or for some reason and decide they are going to help these two crazy kids get together. So
that's right. And I think people, I think the way the next line is read too, where it uses the word obviously drowning, which people might take the sea, that it's a physical sea, the Sea of Tranquility. So it just to be clear, it's more of, I think, that they're drowning emotionally, like I was kind of saying before, rather than physically drowning in any kind of real body of water.
Yeah, it's a play on words for sure.
It's a play on words, exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. They're drowning without this person. They're drowning kind of emotionally because they're so far away.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so then moving on to the second verse. The second verse starts off with Prince again. He says, "When I am lost and feeling alone, I just look to heaven. I find my comfort there. God only knows where you are tonight." And Sheena sings, "God only knows where you are tonight. Maybe time will tell me. Till then, I'll close my eyes and say a prayer for you. And Prince says, I'll say a prayer for you too. Okay, so in the second verse, we get a lot of religious imagery and terminology used here. Heaven, God, prayers. So, that aspect of the song or of the lyrics hasn't presented itself yet until the second verse. And I don't know what religion Sheena is. I've never bothered to look into it. Don't really care, to be very blunt about it. But we all know Prince was a religious person, and just coming right off of Lovesexy, nobody thinks of Batman as being a very spiritual album, because it's designed and meant for a blockbuster film that has nothing to do with spirituality. But Prince being Prince, and even if this was written by Sheena, she either also has some spirituality within her, or is religious in some form or fashion, or she wrote it knowing that Prince is, or Prince maybe had some influence on this verse. I don't know, but that's the thing that kind of stands out to me, is all the references to God and religion and prayers and heaven and stuff like that. So, what else? What else do you want to talk about with this verse, Jerry?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like this was something that was in more Prince's wheelhouse, writing in with these terms. I can't say that not really knowing Sheena's full discography. I don't think she ever written anything of religious context or any kind of like with any overtones. I don't think so off the top of my head, but
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's why again I was more surprised when again researching, saying that that finding out obviously a good bit later, 30 odd years later, that Sheena was the one who wrote the lyrics. So these more seem like Prince lyrics. I mean, if if somebody would have questioned me on it, I would have said, well, that sounds like a part that Prince would have written, or at least tweaked or done something to, maybe, but maybe not. So maybe she knew that the audience she was writing for, in a sense, or at least writing to him, in a sense, that saying, I know Prince would like this in this song, or this would work for him. So, and that definitely seems possible. My favorite part of this, I guess, the lyrics here, and it's the way it's sung too. The last part, the last part that Prince sings, and the last part or the first part that Sheena sings, is "The God only knows where you are tonight." How she kind of follows almost immediately, saying, it's almost like immediate response, the way he's saying it. And I can't say that, that part of the song always resonated with me, because I know, and I'm sure most people have looked out the window, pining out the window, and, thinking of where somebody you're pining for, you're in love with, is tonight. It's like that definitely resonated with me as an 18-year-old, kind of that feeling of, maybe you're not digging me so much right now, but I'm looking out the window. I'm thinking of you. I'm looking up at the sky and wondering where you are. And, those two, and then again, the way it's sung right on top of one another, almost like it's an immediate response, always kind of really worked for me. So I do like that, that verse, kind of the way it's played out there the most in this song.
Yeah, it's almost like they have some sort of telepathic connection where even though we get the impression that they're not singing to each other in a physical space where they can hear each other, you get a sense that they're still somehow able to hear each other, telepathically, or just through a connection that they can't explain, especially like you said, as they both sing the exact same line, "God only knows where you are tonight," back to back. And then when Sheena says, "I'll close my eyes and say a prayer for you," and Prince basically responds, "I'll say a prayer for you too," meaning like he somehow heard her say that and is going to, sing that same, or, echo that sentiment, and "I'll do the same for you too." So I just find it interesting that the lyrics do that, even though, of course, we're led to believe that they're not together. So.
Like you were saying, more not to get too touchy-feely or anything like that, but there definitely seems to be something of a psychic connection going on here, where they are speaking to each other across this divide, whatever it may be.
For sure. Yep. That's a lot of what I get there, besides the religious imagery and just kind of, again, looking up to the heavens. It's kind of the same ideas and concepts that we've just talked about already, about just staring up at the sky, looking for inspiration, hoping God intervenes and helps them out. The chorus again is the same. The arms of Orion, that's where I want to be. Since you've been gone, I've been searching for a lover in the sea of tranquility. I'm drowning without you here, my dear. And then we get the bridge. At this point is, the typical location of a song's bridge, and the song is very traditionally structured, so it doesn't fail us there. And how the two of them sing these lines: Orion's heart is bright enough to shine on both of us. The constellations never fail to light the way for love. Okay, so, it's a lot of the same sentiments again. Talking about Orion. Now, he had big wide arms to hold them earlier in the song. Now his heart is bright to shine on them, so they're really banking on Orion being the guiding light here, from a comfort standpoint, from a emotional standpoint, like really looking to Orion to provide that, like I said, comfort and inspiration to help them connect when they're not together. So, they really work hard to give Orion like this human element. And that was one of the things that I always really struggled about the constellations. So they're like, oh, look at that collection of stars. Does that look like a bull? No. Oh, look at that, collection of stars. What do you see there? Nothing. You really have to stretch your imagination.
I agree with you 100% on that. And that's, I said I like the stories behind them more, the mythology behind it, and that kind of stuff.
I'm with you on that.
That's always been more fascinating to me than you look up and you're like, well, that doesn't look like that. Man, those Greek astrologers must have been on something. What the hell were they drinking? But
they really had a lot of free time on their hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything you wanted to call out with the bridge, Jerry?
Not really. I mean, it's just, again, it's a very nice, sentiment for a love song. Obviously, their love's not going to, there's going to be as long as the stars are in the sky. I mean, it's essentially what they're saying. Our love will last as long as that. And again, that's a fairly common sentiment in a lot of love songs, that our love will be everlasting, and very nice, in poetry and love songs and things of that nature. So, it definitely comes across that way here.
Yeah, that's one thing I did kind of in preparation for the episode, is I was like, well, what are some other, first I just generally said, what are some other songs that reference stars or planets or something? And then the list became so large that, oh my God, never mind.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a man-sized endeavor there.
Yeah, I wrote down several, just the ones that I personally like, because of course there's songs that I'm like, I don't really care about that or don't care about them. But the ones that I picked out, because these are songs that I like, there's a song called When Stars Go Blue. I always like that song. It was written by Ryan Adams, but it's been performed by multiple artists since then. Of course, there's Lucky Star by Madonna. We all know Lucky Star. If you're a Prince fan, you know the song, even if you don't like Madonna. Stevie Wonder has a song called Saturn that I really like, and Beatles Across the Universe.
Of course.
So just a very, 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 very small sample size of songs. You Google it, you're going to come up with a list that's larger than you can handle. So good luck to those of you who attempt that. Anyway, so that's, for the most part, that's really the unique lyrics of the song, because what we get next after the bridge is basically the first verse, slightly different. Orion's arms are wide enough to hold us both together. That's a repeat. Although we're worlds apart across the stars for you. So what's different there? I think, no, nothing's really different there. I think the only thing that's different is who says what lines in that. It's not sung in the exact same way. Or Prince says a couple lines and Sheena says one, and then Prince says one and Sheena says one. So same lyrics, just sung by them differently, slightly different. And they sing the chorus again after that variation of the first verse. And, I don't think that there's anything new there at all until we get to the outro. And even the outro, the words in the outro, the arms of Orion, repeated that twice. That's where I want to be. The arms of Orion. Since you've been gone, I've been drowning without your love. The arms of Orion, repeated again. So these are all sentiments and words and lines that we've already heard in the song. They're just kind of switching them up a little bit, changing how they're singing it, maybe shortening them, picking out keywords like drowning. And that is how, I mean, the song ends on a instrumental note. It doesn't end with like a fade out of them singing or anything, but those are the last words we hear before the instrumental closure of the track. So I guess at this point, Jerry, do you have any comments about how the song ends or any of the final kind of last couple of verses or choruses of the song?
Not particularly. I mean, I do like how it ends with the, kind of the keyboard kind of part, the, keyboard solo, I guess you could say, kind of adds a nice touch there at the end. Not really lyrics per se, but the lyrics, I mean, just kind of, go off on similar, like chorus and theme or callbacks and, kind of back and forth between the two of them singing in a sense, which is nice, sounds nice. I mean, going on what you were saying, I think just a little bit earlier about songs that deal with the stars, stuff like that. One of my favorites is, from the Labyrinth soundtrack, As the World Falls Down by David Bowie, that deals with, the stars and, that kind of stuff. And, we're choosing path between the stars. I'll leave my love between the stars. And, I place the sky within your eyes, or parts of, obviously Jareth singing about Sarah in a sense. And, it's similar in a sense, kind of that longing, I think is related in that song and The Arms of Orion in a bit, is kind of divide between them too. So I'm calling back to that for a minute, but, because I didn't really want to interrupt you because you were on a bit of a roll, and then you kind of kicked into the longer part of the ending of the song where they're just kind of talking. So, or not talking, but just kind of going back and forth with lyrics we've already kind of discussed. So, yeah, not much to say. I said beyond just kind of more the outro with the kind of the nice little keyboard part ending little. I do like that, how it kind of ends with that. It kind of closes it nicely, I think. But in terms of any kind of lyrical content, there's nothing really that is, that stands out that they say beyond what they've already said, in my mind. So
right. Agreed. I just wanted to give you a chance in case you uncovered something that was revolutionary and we wanted to talk about it at this point. But no, I'm with you. It's a lot of the same stuff that we've already talked about. A lot of the same words, a lot of the same lines, so probably nothing new to unpack there. You've already kind of expressed your enjoyment of this song, and that's great because I think this song is has a bit of a polarizing effect on fans. I think some people find it to be a bit, I don't know, simple or syrupy. But the instrumentation is fun. I agree with you. Like my favorite part is that keyboard at the end and how the do 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 do.
Yeah, that was a good version of it. Yeah,
I like that. I dig it. I dig it. So
yeah,
and I've never minded Sheena's voice. I wouldn't call myself a fan. Like, I like some of her singles. I don't really listen to her albums or anything. But whenever a Sheena Easton song from the 80s comes up, I don't turn it. I enjoy her music at a very surface level. So this song doesn't bother me from, like, some people just find her voice to not be very appealing, but I don't mind her voice. So this song doesn't bother me. Is it one of my favorites on the album? No, but I don't like turn it off when it comes on. I don't like dislike it. I'm glad that you enjoyed the song and that you are representing the song on the podcast because
yeah, I mean that's why I chose it. I mean I do enjoy it. I mean and it's one that I definitely think I could speak about. I mean rather than the obvious ones which are Bat Dance and Party Man and stuff like that. I mean obviously everybody kind of knows those, and this is I think maybe more of an underrepresented song in a sense, even though it was a single from the album. I think a lot of times people, when they think of, I guess, the ballad from this, they think of Scandalous from the Batman soundtrack, which is, again, a great song in and of itself. But I think yes, it is maybe more of a straight up love song, but you need a straight up love song for a film. And I'm sure Prince understood that. And that's why this song, he decided to include it. When Sheena sent it to him, it was like, oh, this would work, maybe at that point he didn't know what to do with it, and was like, oh, well, this would work now for the Batman soundtrack, so I'm going to put it here because it is, pretty much, a straight up love song, and maybe a little syrupy or sugary for some people, but I don't know. I guess maybe that's my failing in a sense. I do like that kind of stuff kind of does hit me in the feels a little bit, I guess you could say, and this song definitely does that in a certain way. But it was a lot of timing and stuff too. It was just part of the soundtrack, which I really enjoy, and part of a movie that I really enjoy, and part of a time period, a year specifically, that I really enjoy as well, because there was just a lot going on, in my life in 1989. I was graduating high school and starting college, and all this pop culture stuff that I grew up loving is now kind of in the mainstream, where comics and things like that really weren't for a while. And now here's this huge, movie based on a comic book character that I grew up, loving, so yeah, it was just a confluence of things. And, the song is definitely, a part of that. The whole soundtrack is a part of that. So it's hard for me kind of not to like it. And I mean, I do go back to things, obviously, and from the past, from the 80s specifically, and there are things that don't hold up, unfortunately, well, but this isn't one of them. The movie and the soundtrack still, in my mind, hold up fairly well. So, and I will die on that hill. So, that's my opinion on it. And if there's fans that have different opinions, then that's fine, but that's... Yeah. My take is I was right there in the moment of it, so that kind of zeitgeist really does stick with me, and it hasn't faded over the 30 plus years. So
good. I'm glad, because every Prince song deserves some love and attention, I think, from somebody. So I'm glad that there's people out there that really do enjoy this song for what it is, and it's a very straight up ballad, very of its time. It screams to me like 80s ballad. Or even early 90s, like it would have fit in early 90s ballads as well. It just has that sound, that kind of like timeless, but also of a time. So I get it, and I get why people would like it. So no shade thrown by me on this song at this point. So thanks for being on the show, Jerry. Do you want to point anybody in the direction of like your social media contacts?
Yeah, just, mostly I said, 99 tenths out of 100, all my social media stuff kind of flows through my Twitter account, which is at jbonner71. And you can usually find, what's going on in my life there one way or the other. So you can check that out if you're so inclined.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for offering your opinion and your perspective on the song. Much appreciated. This has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. You can find the show Press Rewind Pod, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, join the Discord if you dig Discord for chatting and communication. We try to have fun on there and talk about Prince and do hopefully some watch parties. I've got one planned for coming up this week. But of course, by the time this episode comes out, it'll already be over. So just join the Discord, and we'll do other watch parties if you hear this later and want to get involved with that. And, thanks to the listeners, thanks to Jerry, and until next time, goodbye.